I want to head into specifically that bit. You know what it is. There we go. The new BOA items.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we were talking about the learning of lessons, and that whenever a change is made, you can't just make the change and then continue with your day. You've got to pause. You've got to think about that change. You've got to think about why people liked it.
Internalize it.
You've got to internalize it. You've got to realize that this is a design principle that has been learned and that must be applied evenly in the future. Because once you make it a principle and then you apply it as a point of policy, then you no longer have got to like rethink and iterate and iterate. Because no, you actually found the version that works. So keep the thing that works and build on top of that instead of, hey, we're doing mana pearls and, benthic gear, and the benthic gear is going to be slot based. And then the next time we forgot about that. We forgot about what we learned. And now it's Quarity Armaments and it's just one slot. And what does it give you? Random.
And they roll random gems and also have really overpowered stuff sometimes.
Yeah, random bullshit.
Yeah.
So, one of the things we were happy about in this patch is the Quarity Armaments. Now, there's a little bit to be said about the weapon armament, but basically, with the new Quarity Armaments, they're slot-based. So you're like, okay, I've got this much Stygia, my character's got all this gear, the bit that I need for an upgrade is my bracer. So I'll buy a bracer Quarity Armament.
Job done.
Job done. The player has, in fact, put in the work to get the Stygia with a specific reward in mind. They then go to the vendor, they get the thing they want. It's almost as if it's a good thing that a player can set a reward, clearly understand how to achieve that, work towards it, and then get the satisfaction of achieving that reward. You know, basic psychology instead of the casino bullshit that we all know. Basically, it goes higher, and then at some point the bubble bursts, and that player is now jaded and is not going to be engaging in your game.
Yeah, I mean, you don't go to work expecting a dice roll for a paycheck. You go to work for a paycheck. That's what World of Warcraft was fundamentally based on and founded on. Obviously, there's a little bit of randomness and loot, so you did have to give it a couple tries. But everything else was, you go, you see a task, you accomplish it. You don't, it's not playing the lottery. I don't know, maybe players do like the lottery, but it's not, it's just not how World of Warcraft made its name in no feasible way.
Absolutely,
No feasible way. I think there's
the lotto elements are World of Warcraft learning strange design decisions from games that are not MMORPGs, and somehow thinking that their MMORPG is structured like Destiny, which it's just not. It's a completely different genre of game. And I mean, look, maybe when you have a whole bunch of theory crafters from elitist jerks in charge who play the game in a fundamentally very end game focused in the three pillars manner, then maybe they don't have that broader perspective of how players engage in a big MMORPG. Maybe it's that. And maybe a part of the job that we all have in this sort of content space is to emphasize that World of Warcraft is not Destiny 2.
Or is it Path of Exile? Or Diablo?
Or is it any of those things? It's World of Warcraft. It's an MMORPG. So what we were talking about there was the Quarity Armaments and how we were happy that they have changed that such that a player has a more clear and targetable reward for the work they put in. Now, there is a good thing here in principle. I must say this is good in principle. The execution does potentially show a lack of understanding.
Potentially.
The exact thing with Quarity Armaments, a lack of understanding. So, there's the Heirloom Vendor in Orbos, and it now sells the following bind-on-account items. The Traveler's Anima Cache. It costs 1,000 anima now, and it can be redeemed by one of your alts for 1,000 anima. So you can pass anima around your alts. Great. Perfect. Absolutely. Thumbs up. Awesome. Next, there's the Valorous Equipment Chest.
Let's go.
And I really like what they're trying to do here. I really like what they're trying to do. Because what they're trying to do is to say, hey, you're a big Mythic Pluser on your main character. Awesome. And you want to try some Mythic Plus out on a different character. Well, we're going to help you give yourself kickstart on that alt. That's great. That is you doing some work in your main. That's helping out your alt. That feels really good. In principle, fantastic. I'm going to give him a big thumbs up for the principle. However, there's the Valorous Equipment Chest. Costs Valor. It contains one piece of item level 210 Mythic 0 gear. So that's the gear that, of course, can be upgradable, and that's the very, very base item level. This chest can only be purchased by a character with a 1,500 or higher Mythic Plus rating. Which I guess it's just that idea of if your main is progressed enough, then you can do that for your alt. I don't think that's really necessary considering that Valor is a seasonally capped currency, and we'll get into that. So currently this costs 500 Valor. And you may have noticed it's just one equipment chest. There's a number of issues here. So what are the, like, what I want Blizzard to start thinking about is in terms of, and this almost makes me sound like I'm going to bring up a focus test or something, but in terms of user story.
Yeah.
It's not thinking about, your systems like an overall spreadsheet, and, you're trying to think about, well, what is the profile of the bell curve, and how many people within that bell curve will have a good experience. That's the entirely incorrect way to think about game design. That is how a spreadsheet mathematician thinks about game design. That is not how you think about game design. Game design is all about emotions and player experience, because you're not working with robots, you're working with people, and the readout from a graph is going to be useful data, but it's not going to be player experience. Titan Forging and numerous other things show us that. So, the player story here. Okay, so you have a new alt. Now, you want to get some mythic gear on that alt. So, you go to this, and, maybe you've got some spare Valor. So, just buy a bunch of boxes. You send them over to your alt. That's it. You click on them and, you get a random bit of gear.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Ooh. This is literally Quarity Armaments all over a friggin' gun.
Oh, what's in my box? 3 bristers, yay!
Yeah, and these boxes, these armor tokens, they don't have dupe protection.
Nope.
I believe Dakor actually tested.
Yeah, I think
he tested that in PTR, and
yeah.
Actually, that was the thing. He tested it in PTR, and it was bam, he got, I think of the 6, 4 of them were domination shard bits of gear, meaning that in terms of how the gearing works right now for a player who, is going to be caring about the performance, it means they're kind of irrelevant.
Yep.
So
also, it's not just irrelevant now, because if they stick to their promise, which, all up in the air after 9.1.5, but if they stick to their promise, 9.2 should have class sets. And if they're class sets in the way we like them, those slots would still be off limit. And if they're class sets in the way we like them, they should be strong enough for Mythic Plus players to want them as well, which is a different kettle of fish. But it means that this shouldn't be dropping those slots, really, unless it's intended as a temporary measure. But I guess we'll get onto that.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. I'll try to use a little bit of mathing to do it, right? And this is thing about a player story. So here's our player Jimmy. Now Jimmy goes to this vendor on Jimmy's main. Jimmy's got 1200 VP left, doesn't have a need for it, so buys two of these for Jimmy's alt. Jimmy logs into his alt, uses him, doesn't get slots that are useful to him.
This one?
Maybe only gets one slot that's useful to him and the other one wasn't. So now Jimmy feels sad, because that's Valor points. That's a seasonally capped currency. You can't just go and earn more. So that's one thing. Now, we've got Jimmy's, and you know what, I'll use stereotypical Northern Irish names. We've got Jimmy's guildies. Let's just call them Sammy and Mervyn. I'll just do it like that. Let's go Northern Irish.
If you consider those Northern Irish names, I know what part of the place you're from anyway. Not names I'd have picked.
Yes, no, we are two fine young half-a-jaffas in the NI context. But anyway, let's just say, Sammy logs in.
Yep.
This is funny to 3 people watching. So Sammy logs in, uses 2 of these boxes, and the 2 bits of gear that Sammy gets are actually useful for his character. So now Jimmy, not only does Jimmy feel bad that, Jimmy got not particularly lucky with the 2 boxes he bought, but he looks over in his guild chat, and there's friggin' Sammy, he got his 2 boxes, and they're both bits of gear that he actually can use. So now Jimmy feels doubly bad. Doubly friggin' bad. And then let's just say a third guildie goes, uses these, gets, 2 bits of useless gear. And now everyone's laughing at them, being like, oh, you got reamed by the system. And now what's happening? The whole friggin' guild is laughing at you, Blizzard. And guess what? This is something that regularly happens, and I'm sure your guild, and certainly our guild.
Yep.
It would be a constant source of jokes and banter in our guild of just how absurd some of these aspects of gearing are in the game. And that, all of this stuff, and again, all of this stuff just erodes people's confidence in the system. And if people are not confident to engage in, if people are not confident to engage in an economy, then that economy is just going to fall to shit. Currency's going to explode and it's all going to be crazy. That shit happens in World of Warcraft as well.
Yeah.
It's like people are becoming less and less confident because of like the way that catch-up gear is like, it's so catch-uppy, and it's like your current efforts will always be nerfed. That erodes confidence. You have things like this where the randomness of it erodes people's confidence. And all of this just means that you're kind of training people to have these bad experiences. And then I'll simplify it. Okay, this is not exactly a super fair simple. This is what, oh my God, it's like 13 gear slots, right? I mean, depending if you got an offhand or a main hand, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, right. Let's just say, you have a 1 in 13 chance. And then maybe you've got another 1 in 13 chance. Now that's obviously 2, assuming there was no bad luck protection, which there often isn't, then that is 2 1 in 13 independent probabilities. While it's not hyper likely for the 2 of those to occur, it's still going to happen to a lot of players. But that's actually extremely charitable because there's a very high chance that, it's not going to be like that because people will have, gear that they've got from other sources. So, you're maybe dealing with 2, 4 in 13 chances or something like that. And, maybe, of course, if chance 1, goes in the right direction, then the next chance is going to be a 5 out of 13 or whatever, right? So if you just think about how you crunch the probabilities there, and we all know this from our own experience of these gearing systems, it's really quite likely that you're going to be disappointed. And you're doing this not with something that people can in a Diablo 3, or PoE or whatever. Like, those super grindy games where, the RNG is just whatever a part of it, but it's all just about going, fast, slay, get all the currency, roll your stuff, go again. And even in some of those games, if you get shit you don't want, you can like shard it or dust it into something that then is, useful. And yeah, you can shard something in World of Warcraft, but that's just going to turn into a pittance of gold. Not exactly something super relevant to a gearing person, right?
Of course, yeah.
And that's all messed up. And then there's other things of how it interacts with other bits of gear in the game. Because, see, if this exists, well, guess what? The eye-level 230 crafted gear from Archivist Codex Rank 5, that's in the game as well. And this now means that a player is basically just incorrect. Because of this system, if a player uses a Valorous equipment chest, if they use that equipment chest after they buy an eye-level 230 bit of crafted gear, they're literally wrong. Now, if this equipment chest was slot targetable, that wouldn't be a problem because you would not buy it in the slot that would be what you just put your 230 in.
Yep.
And then there's also the fact it's Valor points. The whole Valor system, I mean, in 9.0.5, we pointed out that it's a move in the right direction that they're thinking about this, but it has very, very deep fundamental problems.
Of course, yeah.
Those all still exist.
Yeah.
And it's just that thing of, you're really, like, if you're getting an eye-level 210 bit of... this is the weird thing. If you're getting eye-level 210 bit of Mythic Zero gear, I mean, surely Blizzard's intent is not that you upgrade that with Valor points. Because as we know,
that's not how it works.
It's completely incorrect to spend your Valor points on a low base item level bit of gear.
Yep.
So it's like, this is in principle really good as an alt friendliness thing in terms of like very broad, 30,000 foot level. But you then get down into the specifics and you find that they are in this like crazy maze of their own wacky designs, and the stuff kind of runs aground.
Man. I was just like, while you were talking, I was running through some probabilities for stuff.
Okay.
So at least I think my probability math isn't exactly completely up to snuff at the minute, but you have a so assuming you have you want any 2 slots, right? You have your 184 gear and everything. The chance of you spending 1,000 of your Valor, obviously seasonally cap currency, that's well over 1 week of the cap going up.
Oh yeah.
So if you expect to get 2 bits of gear, you only have a 92% chance of that. You have a 92% chance of that happening. And then, let me just think. I had for if you needed 2 bits of gear. I've lost it now. Let me see if I can get it back. But it is disgustingly small.
Doing any form of maths in a live stream is just about the bravest thing I've ever seen a man do.
Sorry, I think it's hang on. I've got it here. You've got basically no chance of reasonably getting 2 slots if you have 2 slots left. You have no chance of getting that, and that's 1,000 Valor. It is completely insane, and it's like something
Which then means you're stupid for engaging the system.
Oh yeah, of course you're an idiot.
And therefore, why would you design a system that if your players engage with it, they're stupid?
Yeah.
You don't want your players to feel stupid or feel like their time has been wasted, because that makes the player feel sad. And then if they feel sad about how they spent their time in the game you're designing, you failed as a designer.
Yeah, that's the thing that completely...
What's going on?
Yeah.
Quarity Armaments, we literally just fixed this problem in this patch.
Yep.
And I'm just like at a loss of words. I'm assuming the Blizzard's intent here is that this is designed for absolutely the biggest pogsters in the land. Apparently that's not what I call players who are really good at the game.
Yeah.
But, the people who are there and they're, they don't even spend Valor points. Basically, because they friggin' zoom up to M plus 15 nearly immediately at the start of a new season. They're always getting their, hopefully, great vault, maximum item level stuff, and then it's not as many VP to upgrade the other bits of gear they've got, and maybe it's halfway through a season or towards the end of a season, and they have so much Valor points in their character that they can just, load up their shotgun and bam, a big cartridge of Valorous equipment chest buckshot flies into their, into their alt, and then, there's so many chests that they'll probably be happy enough. But in that case, who are you designing this for? Because that's not a massive amount of people. I mean, maybe if they're massive Mythic Plusters themselves, they could see that making sense. But if I'm just trying to think about, who I think is more of like your average Joe, because that's most of the people in WoW. Unless we've driven them away, and in which case it's a crying shame.
Yeah, well, I've got one counterpoint to make to that. And this might show exactly how Blizzard might be thinking.
Uh-oh.
If they do design this for people like that, then, I mean, fair enough. I think it's the wrong decision to target people like that if you are targeting that, that kind of era of player versus the more average person. But there's one massive problem.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if anyone who's actually good at the game and plays Mythic Plus, to the level where they won't need to spend Valor and have everything they want and are ready for an alt, I don't think any of them would even bother considering trying to play the game the normal way, because they can just
of course.
boost.
What am I even freaking thinking about?
They can boost, because if they're really good at the game, there's a decent chance they're a booster. They've got a load of gold, even if they aren't a booster. They could still buy a boost, or if they're in a community, they'll get someone to help them. They'll just get a carry. And that's the fact that they're designing stuff around this weird purpose instead of making it useful in any capacity is completely staggering. I genuinely think, and maybe at some point I'll sit down and think of how they could do it, but I genuinely think that the entirety of World of Warcraft's gearing, as it currently stands, needs a massive, massive overhaul, because it's just, there are so many points of failure, so many points of possible frustration, that there's just no way a player can engage with gearing and feel happy about it, unless there's even the people who play 20 to 30 Mythic Plus a week are probably also frustrated, because there's just so many points of failure across the whole system.
Yeah. It's as if they removed Titan Forging, and then with how some of these things have happened, I mean, it's like this, they forgot the lesson of most of the catch-up gear that they've done in the game in the past with Quarity Armaments. Mm-hmm. And then they changed that, and now they've, with this, forgotten what they should have learned from Quarity Armaments. And it just makes you wonder, did they remove Titan Forging, but, literally not understand how to make gearing without it? Or, some weird-ass thing?
I think...
Or maybe it's the Great Vault. Maybe they really are all just, on their knees bowing down to the Great Vault, thinking that it is this incredible piece of game design that is such a catch-all for, so many different forms of gameplay. In which case, there's going to be some shocking use for them soon.
That's what I think is really, really annoys me with the whole thing. If you were designing, I mean, going to have to go back to the maze analogy here. If you were designing something that you wanted to, program animal behavior, the Great Vault's great. You've got some probabilities built in, so it's not the same every time. It's a good Skinner box, but it's not a good game design. I think there are elements of it that are really strong, and we can look at it from the angle that they will and go, okay, I can see what you're trying to do. I completely understand that. But, actually, in chat, are you happy with a Great Vault? On average, has the Disappointment box from Legion, the Disappointment box from BFA, and the Great Vault, have they improved your experience, or have they made it worse? Because I can definitely say I think that the Great Vault based on a couple different factors, is extremely harmful to the gearing experience of World of Warcraft overall.
I now actually have a thought.
Yep.
So the Great Vault in many ways does represent an improvement over its past iterations,
Yeah.
but it has increased the importance
Yeah.
of that aspect of gearing.
Yep.
Fundamentally, right? The big weekly Bing Bing Wahoo box.
Mhm.
And fundamentally, the weekly Bing Bing Wahoo happy anticipation bar box is not the way to do it.
Yeah.
And the more that you, even if you increase the significance of it while also improving it, that could actually make the game worse, because fundamentally it's the wrong sort of direction to go in, which is maybe an interesting thought. I mean, for me, I've just checked out. I don't give a shit about the weekly box, because I'm a very content and experience driven
That's my
player in games. So I look at the box and I think, I'm not jumping through your hoops. You know, maybe if I was literally a rat in a Skinner box and the only way I could get food to survive was to engage in your Skinner box, maybe then I would engage in it. But actually, I can just raid log and play FF14 instead.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Be very wary of making a Skinner box when it's easy for somebody to just turn around, walk out the door, and go to another establishment.
That's dumb. Yeah.
So, you know, if you end up being so like kind of player aggro in your system in a whole thing of trying to keep them in your establishment that they just leave and go somewhere else, it's like, okay, cool. You made a great Skinner box for like 7 people and all your other patrons have just walked away.
Yeah. Because we're complete amateurs and it's also a stable, we have to have a food analogy here in some capacity.
Obviously.
But I think we talked about a restaurant that kind of misbehaved with customers a while ago in terms of a concept.
Yeah.
So imagine you go to a restaurant and they start charging you more or start making your food worse every day you don't show up. That's what it feels. That's what it feels like. It's like, you know the loyalty cards you have for I guess anywhere. It's almost as if you don't have one of those filled, you get this shit coffee that morning. That's what it feels like. Because the game is, everyone else is further ahead and the game is worse when you come back comparatively. It's harder to get groups because everyone's moved on gear-wise. And there's an element of that I think is relatively okay. You can't just go away for like months and expect the game to be perfect when you come back. But that's kind of how a lot of people play games nowadays. Like FF as an example is fantastic. I never feel compelled to log into that game. The only time is like events and stuff, but they're obviously the same as World of Warcraft kind of events. I don't feel compelled to get weekly progress. I know there are weekly things I can do to be efficient, but I never feel compelled because I'm going to go back in. There's not going to be this massive race to the end of gearing that I'm not a part of because gearing is a quick system. I can just come back in and play whenever I want. And that is, that's me having a favorite restaurant that I can go to when I want that food.
Yeah.
As opposed to the one that I know is going to taste worse and worse with every day I don't step my foot in the bastard door. Fuck yeah.
And then there's a few other issues. So one of them is like, this is you buying M0 gear for Valor, even though that is essentially completely useless.
Yep.
Because they've also made it so that when your alt earns Valor points, it's a really, really bad idea to spend it on that M0 gear. Instead, what you do is you want to push the keys to get the higher base high level gear, including your weekly great vault gear. And then also there is that you'll need to do a whole bunch of dungeons on every one of those alts anyway to get the score that you need to upgrade. Because unlike, as Dakor pointed out here, because unlike in patch 9.0.5,
Yep.
it's no longer account wide. It's per character. Which again, it's like one of the things I'm baffled we haven't seen it yet in the 9.1.5 PTR. I half expect it to appear, but it is making the upgrade unlock there be actually be account wide. It really should be.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about PTR stuff, there is a decent chance that this was literally purely tested, thrown in completely just, will people want this Valorous equipment chest? There's no point in me going and making all of the versions for each one. I'll just drop one in, push it to the PTR, see what people think. There's a slight chance of that being possible, and then it being they're going to work on it in future, but we don't know that.
This is in the dev notes.
Is it in the dev notes? Oh, so it is.
Yeah.
Shit.
This was the dev notes. No,
that's right.
If they had that intent, they would have said it in the dev notes.
Yeah.
They should have said
shit,
it.
yeah,
right. So no,
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one step forward, 2 steps backwards.
And then there's the Unchained equipment chest for Conquest that contains one piece of high level 220 unranked PvP gear. which can be purchased by a character with a 1600 or higher rating in any PvP bracket.
Boosters only then.
Boosters only. Dear. So there you go. I thought that would be the natural topic to move on to, just based on what we were riffing off before.
Yeah.
But yeah, point here is the idea of, and there is another aspect here, or another point apart in this stream where we'll talk about something where they basically just borrowed what they did in MOP to, in a very good way. So that is really positive, and there's loads of alt-friendly positivity in this patch, which I'm very happy about. But this is just another thing of, the ongoing thematic. The ongoing theme is Blizzard not learning from mistakes, and I think it's just extra disappointing to see a patch where they get it right with Quarity Armaments, and then it's instantly forgotten with this. Because even if this is a catch-up thing, that still is VP, still is a seasonally capped currency, so you got to treat that player effort with respect. And because see, all this currency that's just a number that is an abstraction for player effort. So whenever you create systems where that currency can just be casino-like destroyed, essentially, you're directly disrespecting player time.
For sure.
So that's what's up there.